Have you ever felt lost in an IKEA store? The endless aisles of furniture, the winding paths, the maze-like layout that seems designed to trap you inside? Well, what if I told you there's one IKEA where getting lost isn't just a temporary inconvenience? It's a permanent nightmare. Welcome to SCP File 3008, classified as a Euclid class anomaly. What appears to be your average IKEA retail store is actually a nightmare that defies the laws of space and reality itself. From the outside, it looks normal, just another big blue box with that familiar yellow logo. But step inside, and you might never step out again. Current containment procedures are deceptively simple. The Foundation maintains a perimeter around the building, disguised as a permanent renovation project. They intercept any customers who try to enter, making up excuses about health code violations or remodeling work. But here's the scary part. They can't actually close all the entrances. New doors keep appearing randomly around the building's exterior, and sometimes people still slip through. Now, let me paint you a picture of what's inside. Imagine walking into IKEA, but instead of the usual maze-like layout, you find yourself in an endless space. The showroom floor stretches on forever in every direction. No exits, no windows, just an infinite sea of furniture displays lit by those familiar fluorescent lights. The retail space appears to be infinite, and GPS devices? Useless. Compasses? They spin like crazy. Even time itself seems to work differently in there. But that's not even the creepiest part. When the lights dim, and they always do, that's when the staff come out. Except they're not really staff. These entities, designated as SCP-3008 look almost human from a distance. Up close, you'll notice their faces are blank and featureless, their limbs too long and bent at impossible angles. During the day, they mostly ignore you, shuffling around aimlessly. But at night, that's when they become hostile. Picture this. You're huddled behind a malm dresser, holding your breath as you hear them shambling past, their voices distorted as they repeat the same phrase over and over. The store is now closed. Please exit the building. But there is no exit. There never was. Survivors who've made it out, yes, there are survivors, tell stories of entire communities living inside. They build fortresses out of furniture, farm the meatballs from the cafeteria section, don't ask how, and develop complex social structures. Some have been trapped for months, others for years. They speak of territories, of wars fought with IKEA furniture turned into weapons, of the constant need to stay moving as the layout shifts around them. The Foundation has documented numerous rescue attempts, but they're rarely successful. The building's interior rearranges itself constantly, making any planned rescue nearly impossible. Sometimes people just appear outside, stumbling out of doors that shouldn't exist, with stories that would make your skin crawl. And now, speaking of stories, let me share something particularly intriguing, a first-hand account that recently came across my desk. It's about 3 friends, Alex, Jenna, and Liam, who thought they were just going furniture shopping for a new apartment. Little did they know, they were about to experience the horrors of SCP-3008 firsthand. The IKEA parking lot was a sprawling sea of cars under a cloudy afternoon sky. Alex shifted the weight of his backpack, glancing over at Jenna and Liam. Jenna, his girlfriend of 3 years, had her phone out, snapping pictures of the neon yellow sign. Liam, their self-appointed interior design guru, was already pointing at the entrance with enthusiasm. "This is it," Liam declared, adjusting his thick-framed glasses. "The promised land. Let's find you guys the perfect couch." "We're just browsing," Alex muttered, already regretting the trip. He hated big stores, especially ones designed to trap you inside their labyrinthine layouts. But Jenna had insisted. Their new apartment needed furniture, and IKEA was affordable. Jenna slipped her hand into Alex's as they crossed the lot. "Relax. We'll grab some of those meatballs after. It'll be fun." Alex offered a tight smile. Fun wasn't how he'd described the experience of navigating IKEA's winding aisles, but he held his tongue. Inside, the air smelled of pine wood and cinnamon-scented candles. The store was bustling families debating color schemes, couples arguing over bed frames, and kids darting between towering stacks of flat-pack furniture. Jenna grabbed a store map from a stand, though Alex knew it wouldn't help much. IKEA layouts had a way of steering you where they wanted, not where you intended to go. They started in the showroom, weaving past staged living rooms and kitchens. Jenna and Liam examined every setup with keen interest, snapping photos and debating throw pillow colors. Alex trailed behind, occasionally nodding when prompted, but otherwise keeping quiet. About 15 minutes in, Alex noticed something strange. "I thought we passed this setup already," he said, stopping in front of a minimalist desk display. Jenna looked up from her phone. "No, that one had a different chair. Right, Liam?" "Totally different," Liam confirmed without looking, engrossed in a display of wall-mounted shelving. Alex frowned. It wasn't just the desk. The entire layout felt off. The aisles stretched longer than he remembered, the rows of displays seeming to curve unnaturally in the distance. The overhead signs were all in Swedish, making navigation harder than it should have been. "Hey, let's stick together," he said. "This place is big." "We're fine," Jenna said with a laugh. "We've got the map." Alex didn't share her confidence. He looked back toward the entrance, but it was gone, swallowed by an expanse of dining tables and pendant lamps. As they walked deeper into the store, Alex's unease grew. The once familiar chatter of shoppers seemed to thin out, replaced by an eerie stillness. The air felt heavier, and the ambient lighting above flickered faintly, as though the building were on the verge of a power surge. "Are we in the warehouse section already?" Liam asked, squinting at the towering shelves now lining their path. "We haven't even made it through the living room displays," Jenna replied, checking the map. "This doesn't make sense." Alex gestured around them. "None of this does. Look at the shelves. They're way taller than before." They were. The metal racks now soared into darkness, impossibly high for an IKEA store. The occasional label, Hemnes, Kallax, Björsta peeked through the dimness, but the products themselves seemed endless, stacked in neat, overwhelming precision. Jenna folded the map with a frustrated sigh. "Okay, maybe we took a wrong turn. Let's backtrack." They turned around, only to find themselves staring at another aisle one that hadn't been there moments ago. "Wait," Liam said, spinning in place. "Wasn't there a kitchen section behind us?" "Yeah," Alex replied. His voice was tight. "And now it's just this." The group exchanged uneasy glances. Liam pulled out his phone and opened Google Maps. "I'll just get a location." He paused, frowning at the screen. "What's wrong?" Jenna asked. "No signal." "Maybe the Wi-Fi's down," Jenna offered, her optimism faltering. Alex checked his own phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi. The time on his screen had frozen, stuck at 3:42 p.m. He glanced at the others. "Let's find the entrance." They walked briskly, their casual shopping trip now a focused mission. The path twisted and forked unpredictably, defying the store's usual layout. Every turn led them deeper into identical aisles of furniture, the overhead signs offering no guidance. After an hour, Alex stopped. "This is ridiculous. We should have hit a wall by now. Or an employee." "I haven't seen anyone for a while," Jenna admitted, her voice quiet. "I'm sure it's fine," Liam said, but even his usual cheer was slipping. "We probably just missed the main path. Let's keep moving." As they pressed on, the oppressive silence deepened. The ceiling lights dimmed further, casting long, distorted shadows across the aisle. The occasional creak or rustle from the towering shelves made Alex whip his head around. But there was never anyone there. "I swear, if this is some marketing gimmick," Alex muttered. "Yeah, like Extreme IKEA," Liam joked, forcing a laugh. No one joined him. They reached what looked like a junction, the first open area they'd seen in over an hour. It was a mock dining room display, a round table set for 6, complete with decorative plates, and a centerpiece of fake flowers. The arrangement was pristine, as though untouched by human hands. "Let's rest here," Jenna said, sinking into one of the chairs. Alex shook his head. "No, we need to keep moving. We've been walking for hours," she argued. "I just need 5 minutes." Alex hesitated but relented, dropping his backpack onto the table. Liam wandered a few steps away, peering down one of the branching aisles. "Hey guys?" Liam's voice trembled slightly. "You need to see this." Alex and Jenna hurried over. Liam was standing at the edge of the junction, staring down an aisle. At first, Alex didn't see what had him so rattled, just more furniture. But then he noticed it. A figure, standing motionless in the distance. It wore a yellow shirt and blue pants, the unmistakable uniform of an IKEA employee. Its proportions were all wrong, though. The figure was impossibly tall, its limbs long and thin like stretched taffy. Where a face should have been, there was only smooth, featureless skin. "What the hell is that?" Jenna whispered. Alex pulled her back instinctively. "I don't know, but we're not sticking around to find out." Liam stepped forward. "Maybe they can help us?" "Does that look like someone who can help?" Alex snapped. The figure moved. Its gait was unnatural, its legs bending at odd angles as it shuffled closer. "It's coming," Jenna said, her voice rising in panic. "Run!" Alex shouted. They bolted down the nearest aisle, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. Behind them, the sound of deliberate, mechanical strides grew louder. "Left!" Liam called, and they veered into another aisle, nearly colliding with a wall of boxed shelving units. The lights above flickered violently before cutting out entirely, plunging them into near darkness. The only illumination came from the faint glow of emergency lights, scattered throughout the store. "Keep going," Alex urged, his voice hoarse. They sprinted blindly, the sound of pursuit growing fainter. Finally, they stumbled into another open area, gasping for breath. A dimly lit sign overhead read, "Exchange and Returns." What was that thing?" Liam panted, clutching a stitch in his side. "I don't know," Alex said, looking back the way they came. The aisle was empty now, but he couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. Jenna grabbed his arm. "We need to find the exit. Now!" Alex nodded, though deep down he wasn't sure there was one. The faint glow of the Exchange and Returns sign cast long, flickering shadows on the floor. Alex leaned against a display shelf, trying to steady his breathing. Jenna was pacing in tight circles, muttering to herself, while Liam sat on the floor, his back against a stack of flat-pack boxes. "We can't stay here," Jenna said, breaking the silence. Alex agreed, but his legs felt like lead. "Give me a second to think." "Think!" Jenna snapped. "We need to move, Alex. Did you see that thing?" "It didn't follow us," Liam said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Not yet," Jenna replied. She tugged at Alex's sleeve. "Come on!" Reluctantly, Alex pushed himself upright. His legs trembled, but the fear pressing down on his chest was stronger than his exhaustion. "Fine, let's go. Stay close." They moved cautiously through the aisles, sticking together and keeping their voices low. The ambient hum of the fluorescent lights was gone, replaced by an oppressive silence broken only by their footsteps. Every creak of the shelves made Alex flinch, but the thing in the yellow shirt was nowhere to be seen. As they walked, Alex noticed subtle changes. The signs overhead were written in gibberish now, strings of letters that formed no recognizable words. Furniture displays became more abstract, with items stacked in precarious towers or arranged in nonsensical patterns. At one point, they passed a dining table bolted vertically to a wall, its chairs floating in midair. "This place is wrong," Liam murmured, his voice barely audible. "No kidding," Alex replied, glancing nervously at the distorted displays. "Where are all the other people?" Jenna asked. "It was crowded when we came in." Alex had no answer. He kept his eyes forward, searching for any sign of the entrance or anything that might offer a way out. After what felt like hours, they reached another open area. This one was a mock bedroom display, complete with a king-sized bed, nightstands, and a small wardrobe. The bed's mattress was unnervingly clean, the sheets tucked so tightly they might have been ironed. "We should rest here," Liam said, collapsing onto the edge of the bed. "No way," Jenna said. "We can't stop, not here." "Jenna, we've been walking for hours," Alex said. "We're all exhausted. 5 minutes, okay? Just enough to catch our breath." Jenna hesitated, her gaze darting around the open space. Finally, she nodded, though she refused to sit. Alex dropped his backpack onto the floor and rummaged through it, pulling out a bottle of water. He handed it to Jenna, who drank deeply before passing it to Liam. "What do you think that thing was?" Liam asked between sips. "Not human," Alex replied. "I don't know what else to say." "I thought it was an employee at first," Liam said, "until I saw its face or, well, the lack of one." Jenna hugged herself, shivering despite the warm, stagnant air. "I just want to get out of here." "We will," Alex said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. A sudden sound broke the quiet, a distant echoing voice. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Jenna's head snapped up. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," Alex said, his heart pounding. Liam stood, his face pale. "It's close." The voice came again, louder this time. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Alex grabbed his backpack. "Move now." They bolted from the bedroom display, running blindly through the aisles. The voice continued, growing more insistent. "Please exit the building." Lights flickered overhead, casting frantic shadows that danced on the walls. Alex risked a glance over his shoulder and saw a figure lurching toward them. It was one of the yellow-shirted entities, taller and more grotesque than the last. Its limbs swung unnaturally as it moved, its eyeless face fixed on the group. "Faster!" Alex shouted. They turned a corner and nearly collided with a row of shelves. Liam tripped, sprawling onto the floor. Alex grabbed his arm and hauled him to his feet, but the delay cost them. The thing was closing in, its long arms reaching out. "This way!" Jenna yelled, veering down a side aisle. The group followed, weaving through a maze of displays. The voice continued to echo, joined by others. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Alex skidded to a halt as they reached another junction. To his left, he spotted a glowing sign that read, "Food Court." "There!" he shouted, pointing. They sprinted toward the sign, the sound of pursuit growing louder. The food court was eerily intact, complete with trays of meatballs and mashed potatoes sitting under heat lamps. "In here!" Alex said, ducking behind a counter. They crouched in the shadows, trying to silence their breathing. The footsteps of the pursuing entity grew louder, then stopped. Alex peeked over the counter and froze. The yellow-shirted thing stood at the edge of the food court, its head swiveling slowly. "Please exit the building," it said, its voice flat and mechanical. It took a step forward, then another, its movements jerky and unnatural. Alex held his breath, his pulse hammering in his ears. The thing stopped again, tilting its head as though listening. Then, without warning, it turned and shuffled back the way it came. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, Liam broke the silence. "What the hell is happening here?" "I don't know," Alex said, "but we're not staying to find out." The silence in the food court was suffocating, broken only by their ragged breathing. The overhead lights flickered sporadically, casting distorted shadows across the linoleum floor. Jenna peeked over the counter, scanning the aisles for any sign of movement. "Do you think it's gone?" she whispered. Alex wiped sweat from his forehead, his pulse still racing. "Maybe, but I don't think we're safe yet." Liam slumped against the counter, clutching his chest. This is insane. Did you see how it moved? Like it wasn't even real." "Focus," Alex snapped. "We need to find the exit." "Do you even know where to look?" Jenna shot back. "No," Alex admitted, "but staying here isn't an option." The food court's eerie stillness made it feel like a trap. The untouched trays of food under the heat lamps smelled faintly of meatballs and gravy, but the absence of any visible cooks or customers made Alex's stomach churn. "Okay," he said finally. "We'll head toward the main entrance. It's got to be somewhere in this maze." Jenna grabbed a plastic tray and handed it to Alex. "Take this." If that thing comes back, you'll need something to defend yourself. Seriously, a tray. It's better than nothing, she hissed. Liam, still pale and shaken, grabbed a metal fork from the counter. Let's just go before it finds us again. The group moved cautiously, sticking close to the walls and avoiding open spaces. The aisles felt even narrower now, the towering shelves looming overhead like prison bars. Every creak of the building set Alex's teeth on edge. As they rounded a corner, the lights above flickered once, then twice, before plunging into total darkness. Shit, Jenna muttered, pulling out her phone and switching on its flashlight. Alex did the same, the narrow beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. The shelves seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction, their contents casting jagged shadows on the floor. Stay close, Alex said. They crept forward, their footsteps muffled on the polished linoleum. Somewhere in the distance, the flat, mechanical voice echoed again. The store is now closed. Please exit the building. Jenna stopped abruptly, her flashlight shaking. It's coming back. Alex strained his ears, and sure enough, he heard it. The slow, deliberate thud of heavy footsteps. This way, he whispered, leading them down another aisle. The sound of pursuit grew louder, joined by another voice. The store is now closed. Please exit the building. Are there more of them? Liam asked, his voice cracking. Don't stop to find out, Alex replied. They turned another corner and came face to face with an ominous sight. A cluster of mannequins dressed in IKEA uniforms, their eyeless faces eerily similar to the thing that had chased them earlier. Keep moving, Alex said, pulling Jenna past the display. The footsteps were closer now, echoing unnaturally in the confined space. Alex risked a glance behind them and froze. Two figures were following, their elongated limbs and featureless faces illuminated briefly by Jenna's flashlight. They're right behind us, he shouted. The group broke into a sprint, weaving through the labyrinthine aisles. The entities followed, their strides long and deliberate despite their unnatural proportions. As they ran, Alex spotted a glimmer of hope, a glowing exit sign in the distance. There, he shouted, pointing. The group barreled toward the sign, their fear driving them forward. The exit looked tantalizingly close. A glass door flanked by potted plants and a cheerful, "Thank you for shopping" banner. But as they reached the final stretch, the exit flickered and disappeared, leaving only another aisle of furniture in its place. Jenna let out a strangled cry. No, it was right there! It's messing with us, Alex yelled. The entities were closing in, their mechanical voices blending into a chilling chorus. Please exit the building. Alex turned sharply, leading the group into a narrow side passage. The walls were lined with mirrors, their reflections warping unnaturally as the flashlight swept past. Here, Alex whispered, ducking into a small storage room. The others followed, pulling the door shut behind them. The space was cramped, filled with flat-pack boxes and rolls of bubble wrap. Did they see us? Liam asked, his chest heaving. I don't think so, Alex said, though he wasn't sure. The muffled sound of footsteps passed by the door, then receded into the distance. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Jenna broke the silence. We're going to die in here. No, Alex said firmly. We'll get out. We just have to stay focused. How? Liam demanded. The exit isn't real. Nothing in this place makes sense. Alex didn't have an answer. He leaned against the wall, staring at the floor, his mind racing. The lights flickered back on, casting a harsh glare over the storage room. Alex's heart sank as he noticed something on the floor, a faint smear of blood leading out of the room and into the aisle beyond. It's not over, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Jenna looked at him, her face pale. What do you mean? Before Alex could respond, the door handle rattled. The door rattled again, harder this time, shaking on its hinges. Alex held his breath, gripping the plastic tray Jenna had given him like a shield. Jenna pressed herself against the wall, clutching Liam's arm, while Liam clutched his makeshift weapon, a fork, as though it might save them. A voice, flat and mechanical, came from the other side. Please exit the building. The door creaked, the lock straining under pressure. Alex's heart pounded in his ears as he weighed their options. They couldn't stay trapped in the storage room, but running blindly into the maze of aisles seemed like a death sentence. Just as the door groaned as if it might give way, the rattling stopped. The group waited, frozen in silence. Seconds passed, then a minute. Finally, Alex mustered the courage to whisper, "I think it's gone." Jenna shook her head. "No way, it's waiting for us. We can't stay here forever," Liam said, his voice trembling. "We need to find help. There has to be someone else in this place." Alex nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but we stick together. No splitting up." Cautiously, he opened the door, peering out into the aisle. It was empty. The blood smear from earlier had disappeared, replaced by an immaculate floor that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "Let's go," he whispered. They moved quickly but quietly, staying close to the shelves for cover. The aisles seemed endless, each one blending into the next. Alex's sense of direction was hopelessly scrambled, but he kept moving, driven by a mix of fear and determination. After what felt like an eternity, they heard voices, human voices. "Do you hear that?" Jenna whispered, her eyes widening. Alex nodded. The sound was faint but unmistakable. People talking, shouting orders. "This way," he said, quickening his pace. They turned a corner and stopped abruptly. In front of them was a massive wall, constructed from stacked shelves, tables, and other IKEA furniture. Makeshift barricades lined the top, where figures moved back and forth, armed with spears and other improvised weapons. "Who are they?" Liam asked. "Survivors," Alex said, his relief tempered by caution. One of the figures on the wall spotted them and shouted, "We've got strays! Open the gate!" A section of the wall creaked as a crude wooden gate swung outward. A man stepped forward, his face gaunt and weathered. He held a metal pipe in one hand, the other beckoning them in. "Get inside, quick!" he barked. The group didn't hesitate, rushing through the gate as it slammed shut behind them. Inside the walls, the atmosphere was both chaotic and oddly organized. The area resembled a small village, with tents and lean-tos set up around a central fire pit. People bustled about, carrying supplies and tending to various tasks. A large banner overhead read, "Exchange and Returns," illuminated by a string of salvaged Christmas lights. "Welcome to Exchange," the man said, lowering his weapon. "You're lucky we saw you." "Thank you," Alex said, his voice thick with relief. "We've been running for hours." "What is this place?" The man sighed. "The closest thing to safety you'll find in here. My name's Paul, and before you ask, no, we don't know how to get out." The group was ushered into a communal tent where a woman named Candace handed them bowls of canned soup. She had a stern demeanor but kind eyes. "Eat up," she said. "You'll need your strength." As they ate, Paul and Candace explained the rules of survival. "This place has a day-night cycle," Paul began. "During the day, those things, the staff, we call them, are passive, harmless even. But at night they become violent. You've seen that already." Alex nodded grimly. "Why do they do it?" Candace shrugged. "No one knows. They're not human. That much is obvious. But they look like they're trying to mimic us, like they're playing at being employees. They mimic you in other ways too," Paul added. "We've seen them scavenging supplies, even rearranging furniture." Liam frowned. "Rearranging furniture?" Paul nodded. "It's like they're trying to fix the store, whatever fixing means to them." Candace leaned forward. "Here's the important part. You go out during the day to scavenge food, water, supplies, but you're back here by nightfall. No exceptions. If you're out there when the lights go out, you're as good as dead." Have you ever seen anyone get out?" Jenna asked hesitantly. Candace exchanged a glance with Paul before replying. "A few people claim to have seen exits, but they're never in the same place twice. Most of us have stopped looking." "What about the Foundation?" Alex asked. "Someone has to be looking for us, right?" Paul scoffed. "If they are, they're doing a lousy job. A few drones have flown over, but they never stopped to help." Alex felt a pang of despair, but forced it down. "Then what do we do?" "You survive," Candace said firmly. "That's all you can do." That night, Alex and the others were given a tent near the wall. The settlement was well fortified, but the unease was palpable as the lights above flickered, signaling nightfall. From their tent, they could hear the staff gathering outside the walls. The flat, mechanical voices began their chilling refrain. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Then came the pounding fists slamming against the barricades, rattling the furniture walls. Jenna clutched Alex's arm, her face pale. How long can this place hold? Alex didn't answer. He wasn't sure he wanted to know. The rhythmic pounding on the walls of exchange continued late into the night. Alex lay awake in the tent, staring at the sagging fabric above him, as Jenna's shallow breaths told him she was asleep. Though not peacefully, the staff were relentless, their inhuman voices blending with the sound of fists slamming against the barricade. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." Over and over the words played like a broken record, each repetition gnawing at Alex's frayed nerves. He sat up, careful not to wake Jenna, and slipped outside. Around the camp, others were on guard duty, some armed with spears fashioned from broom handles and kitchen knives, others with makeshift crossbows that looked as dangerous to the wielder as to any target. "Couldn't sleep." Paul's voice came from the shadows. He emerged holding a flashlight and his trusty metal pipe. Alex shook his head. "How do you live like this? Constantly on edge?" Paul leaned against the wall, the wooden furniture beneath him creaking softly. "You get used to it, or you die. Those are the only options here." The bluntness of his answer chilled Alex, but it was the truth. Paul gestured toward the barricade. "You should get some rest. The attacks don't usually last past sunrise." "Usually?" Alex asked. Paul offered a grim smile. "This place doesn't care about rules. It changes whenever it wants." The following morning, Alex joined a scavenging team. Supplies were running low, and Paul was adamant about replenishing the stockpile before nightfall. Jenna wanted him to stay, but Alex insisted. "I need to do something," he told her. "I can't just sit around and wait for those things to kill us." Jenna reluctantly let him go, and Alex set off with Paul, a wiry young woman named Sandra, and an older man named Wasim, who carried a battered crossbow. The aisles felt different during the day, still eerie but not as oppressive. The staff wandered aimlessly, their grotesque forms gliding silently between displays. As long as no one engaged them, they remained passive. "This way," Paul whispered, leading them into what looked like a kitchen section. The group moved quickly, loading their bags with canned goods, bottled water, and whatever tools they could find. Alex kept an eye on the staff, his grip tightening on the claw hammer he'd been given. "Don't stare too long," Sandra advised. "They don't like that." Alex nodded, tearing his gaze away from a particularly tall staff member whose limbs seemed to bend in unnatural directions. They reached a mock pantry display and began rifling through the shelves. Wasim found a stack of energy bars, while Sandra unearthed a box of water purification tablets. "This is good," Paul said, tossing a bundle of duct tape into his bag. "Let's hit the next aisle and head back." As they turned the corner, Alex stopped dead in his tracks. "What is it?" Sandra asked. "Look," Alex pointed. Ahead, one of the staff stood with its back to them, rearranging a display of dinnerware. Its movements were stiff and deliberate, as though mimicking human actions. Paul waved for the group to back up, but before they could retreat, the staff froze. Its head tilted sharply, and it turned toward them. Alex's breath caught in his throat. Up close, the thing was even more grotesque. Its smooth, featureless face glistened under the artificial light, and its limbs twitched unnaturally as it began to approach. "Don't move," Paul whispered. "It's still passive." The staff stopped a few feet away, tilting its head again as though confused. Then it turned and continued rearranging the display. "Let's go," Paul said, motioning for them to follow. The group made it 2 aisles over before they heard the sound of glass shattering. "What the hell?" Sandra whispered. They rounded the corner and saw Wasim standing over a broken jar of pasta sauce, his crossbow dangling from his shoulder. "It slipped," he said, his voice panicked. "Shit," Paul muttered. "Move now." The sound had drawn the attention of nearby staff. One by one they turned toward the group, their eyeless faces eerily fixed in their direction. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building," one of them intoned, despite it being broad daylight. "Run!" Paul shouted. The group sprinted, weaving through the aisles as the staff began to pursue. Their movements were unnaturally fast now, their long limbs swinging as they closed the distance. Alex clutched his hammer tightly, his heart hammering in his chest. The sound of footsteps and that flat mechanical refrain echoed around them. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." They burst into another open area, a warehouse-like section filled with pallets and crates. "This way!" Paul yelled, leading them toward a stack of furniture. The group scrambled up the pile, hoping to gain a vantage point or at least some breathing room. Alex climbed after them, his hands slipping on the smooth surfaces. One of the staff reached the base of the pile and began to climb, its grotesque limbs contorting unnaturally as it ascended. "Wasim, shoot it!" Paul shouted. Wasim raised his crossbow, fired, and missed. "Damn it!" Paul growled, swinging his pipe as the creature neared. The blow connected with a sickening crunch, sending the staff tumbling back to the floor. Another one took its place almost immediately. "We can't stay here," Sandra yelled. "Go!" Paul shouted. "I'll hold them off." "No!" Alex grabbed Paul's arm. "We stick together!" Paul hesitated but nodded. The group leapt from the other side of the stack, landing awkwardly but unscathed. "Keep moving," Paul urged. They bolted down another aisle, the staff in relentless pursuit. Alex's lungs burned, and his legs felt like they might give out, but he kept running. At last, they reached a narrow corridor lined with more pallets. Paul shoved a stack into the path behind them, creating a temporary barricade. The staff clawed at the obstacle, their flat voices continuing their mantra. "Please exit the building. Back to exchange," Paul said, panting. "Now!" The group staggered back to exchange, bruised and exhausted. The sight of the settlement's barricaded walls brought a moment of relief, but Alex's gut told him it wouldn't last. The staff were relentless, and their numbers seemed to be growing. Paul slammed the gate shut behind them, securing it with a heavy bar. Survivors inside the walls rushed to meet them, their faces etched with worry. "Trouble?" Candace asked, her tone sharp. "Big trouble," Paul said, his voice strained. "The staff were active during the day. That's new." A murmur rippled through the gathered survivors. Candace scowled, folding her arms. "How many followed you?" "Half a dozen at least," Paul replied. "We managed to block them off, but it won't hold long." Candace cursed under her breath. "We'll double the guard tonight. Everyone else, reinforce the walls. Move!" The camp erupted into action. Alex dropped his scavenged supplies near the fire pit, his legs threatening to give out beneath him. Jenna rushed to his side, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Not really," Alex admitted. "It's worse out there than we thought." The night came too quickly. The overhead lights flickered, signaling the transition to darkness. The camp braced itself as the first eerie calls rang out. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." The pounding started almost immediately. Fists slammed against the barricades, shaking the makeshift walls. The staff's distorted shadows stretched across the settlement as they circled, searching for weak points. "Here they come!" someone shouted. Alex stood on the wall with Paul holding a sharpened broomstick. The barricade shuddered as a staff member slammed into it, its elongated arms clawing at the structure. "Push it back!" Paul yelled, swinging his pipe. The blow landed with a sickening thud, but the creature didn't flinch. Others joined the fight, stabbing through gaps in the barricade. Alex thrust his broomstick into the chest of a staff member. The thing stumbled but didn't fall. "They don't stop!" Alex shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "They will if you hit them hard enough," Paul replied, swinging again. This time the creature crumpled, its body folding unnaturally as it hit the ground. But for everyone they took down, two more appeared. The pounding grew louder, the walls trembling under the onslaught. Candace climbed onto the barricade, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Focus. Reinforce the weak spots. Don't let them through." Her command rallied the defenders, but it was clear they were losing ground. Hours into the assault, a section of the barricade collapsed. "They're in!" someone screamed. The staff poured through the breach, their mechanical voices blending into a chilling cacophony. "Please exit the building." Chaos erupted inside Exchange. People scrambled to defend themselves, wielding knives, pipes, and anything they could find. The staff moved with terrifying precision, their long limbs swinging like pendulums as they struck down anyone in their path. "Fall back!" Candace shouted. "To the center!" Alex grabbed Jenna's hand and pulled her toward the fire pit, dodging the grasp of a staff member. Liam followed close behind, clutching his fork like a lifeline. They reached the center of the settlement, where a cluster of survivors had gathered. Paul and Candace were organizing a final stand, but it was clear they were outnumbered. "This is it," Paul said grimly, gripping his pipe. "We hold here or we die." Jenna clung to Alex, her eyes wide with terror. "What do we do?" "Stay close to me," Alex said, "no matter what." The staff advanced, their faceless heads tilting unnaturally as they moved. The survivors fought valiantly, but it was like trying to hold back a tide with bare hands. Amid the chaos, a sudden, deafening roar filled the air. A bright spotlight cut through the darkness, and the sound of engines rumbled in the distance. "What the hell is that?" Liam shouted. From above, a voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "This is the SCP Foundation. Stay where you are. Do not engage." Alex looked up to see a drone hovering overhead, its camera scanning the area. Moments later, heavily armed personnel emerged from the shadows, clad in black tactical gear. The Foundation operatives moved with precision, using specialized weapons to take down the staff. Their rifles emitted sharp bursts of light, and the creatures fell, twitching, to the ground. The survivors watched in stunned silence as the operatives cleared the area. One of them approached the group, his voice muffled by a mask. "Are you injured?" Paul stepped forward. "We're fine, but our camp is overrun. We need to get out of here." The operative nodded. "Evacuation is not possible at this time. We'll secure the perimeter and regroup." "What about us?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling. "You'll need to hold tight until further notice," the operative replied. "We'll do what we can." By dawn, the staff had retreated, leaving the camp in ruins. The Foundation operatives had withdrawn as well, their intervention brief and clinical. Exchange was no longer safe. "We can't stay here," Paul said, surveying the damage. "We need to move." "Move where?" Sandra asked. "There's nowhere to go." Alex looked at the wreckage around him, the bodies of fallen staff littering the ground. His chest tightened. There had to be a way out. There had to be. "We'll find it," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "We have to." The remains of Exchange smoldered in the pale, artificial daylight. Makeshift walls were shattered, tents ripped apart, and supplies scattered across the linoleum floor. Survivors huddled in small groups, their faces hollow with exhaustion and fear. Alex stood with Jenna, Liam, and Paul at the center of the wreckage, staring at the corpses of the staff strewn around the settlement. The bodies didn't bleed or decay, their flesh disturbingly smooth and rubbery. "We can't stay here," Paul said again, his voice hoarse. "No one's arguing with you," Jenna replied. "Where do we even go?" Liam asked, sitting heavily on a piece of broken shelving. "The whole place is like this." Paul crouched beside him, gripping his shoulder. "We find another settlement. Checkouts, aisle 630, someone will take us in." "And then what?" Alex asked, his voice sharper than he intended. "We sit around waiting to die like everyone else?" Paul shot him a hard look. "You got a better idea?" Alex opened his mouth to reply but closed it again. He didn't have an answer, and that infuriated him. The survivors salvaged what they could carry and prepared to leave. Alex and Jenna gathered bottled water, a few cans of food, and some blankets. Paul had his pipe, and Alex armed himself with a crowbar scavenged from the ruins. "Ready?" Paul asked, his eyes scanning the remnants of Exchange. "Ready as we'll ever be," Alex muttered. The group set out, leaving the wreckage behind. They moved cautiously, their steps muffled on the linoleum. The aisles stretched endlessly in every direction, the signs overhead offering no useful guidance. Hours passed. The group spoke little, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. Occasionally they passed the body of a staff member, its limbs twisted in impossible angles. "They don't rot," Liam said quietly, breaking the silence. "Maybe they're not alive to begin with," Jenna replied. "Whatever they are, they're not done with us," Paul said, his grip tightening on his pipe. By nightfall, they hadn't found another settlement. The lights overhead flickered, signaling the start of the dark cycle. "Here," Paul said, pointing to a cluster of overturned display furniture. "We'll make camp here for the night." The group hurried to fortify the area, stacking shelves and tables to create a crude barrier. Alex worked quickly, his hand shaking as he glanced over his shoulder. "The store is now closed. Please exit the building." The first voice echoed faintly in the distance, soon joined by others. "They're coming," Jenna whispered, her face pale. "Stay quiet," Paul instructed, holding his pipe at the ready. The hours dragged on, the staff's eerie calls drawing closer and closer. The barricade trembled as the creatures tested it, their flat voices repeating their mantra. "Please exit the building." One of them pressed its featureless face against the gap in the barrier, its head tilting as though studying the group. Alex raised his crowbar, his heart pounding. The creature didn't move, its eyeless gaze unnervingly focused. "Don't engage," Paul hissed. The staff eventually withdrew, their footsteps fading into the distance. The group sat in tense silence, waiting for dawn. The next morning, they found the aisle they had camped in rearranged. The shelves had shifted positions, and some of the furniture they had used for the barricade was gone. "It's like they're toying with us," Liam said, his voice trembling. "No," Paul said grimly, "they're hurting us." The group pressed on, desperate to find another settlement. But as the hours stretched into days, it became clear they were running out of time. Supplies dwindled, and exhaustion set in. Jenna began to falter, her steps unsteady. Alex supported her as best he could, but his own strength was failing. "We can't keep going like this," Jenna said, her voice weak. "We don't have a choice," Alex replied. On the fourth day, they found it, a glowing exit sign at the end of a long aisle. Alex stared at it, his chest tightening. "Do you see that?" "It's a trick," Paul said. "It has to be." "Maybe," Alex replied. "But what if it's not?" The group exchanged uneasy glances. Liam took a tentative step forward. "We have to try." Paul sighed heavily. "Fine, but stay together." They approached the sign cautiously, every step laden with suspicion. The exit shimmered faintly, almost too perfect to be real. When they reached the door, Alex hesitated. He looked back at Jenna, who nodded. "Let's do it," she said. Alex pushed the door open. The sunlight was blinding. Alex stumbled out, blinking against the sudden brightness. The air smelled clean, and the sound of birds filled his ears. They were outside. Paul emerged behind him, shielding his eyes. "We made it." Jenna and Liam followed, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and relief. But something wasn't right. The parking lot was empty, the IKEA building looming behind them like a monolith. No other cars, no people, just an eerie stillness. "What now?" Liam asked. No one answered. Weeks later, Alex sat alone in his apartment, staring at the living room set he and Jenna had picked out on that fateful day. She was gone now, as were Liam and Paul. He couldn't remember how they'd disappeared, only that they had. His phone buzzed on the table. A notification popped up. "Special deal. Visit IKEA today." Alex froze. In the corner of his eye, he swore he saw a figure in a yellow shirt and blue pants standing just outside his window. The store was never closed. Now let's break down what we actually know about SCP-3008, sticking strictly to the official Foundation documentation. First, the basics. SCP-3008 appears as a standard IKEA retail store from the outside. Nothing special. Same logo, same color scheme, same everything. But inside, that's where reality takes a coffee break. The interior space is effectively infinite. We're talking endless showrooms and retail areas that completely ignore normal spatial laws. The Foundation's measurements suggest it's way bigger on the inside than physically possible. Like billions of square kilometers bigger. Let's talk about the lighting system. It follows a day-night cycle, but it's not synced with the outside world. During the day period, those fluorescent lights keep everything visible. But when night hits, that's when things get dangerous. The entities inside, designated as SCP-3008-2, are fascinating in a nightmare fuel kind of way. During daylight hours, they're mostly passive, just wandering around aimlessly. But at night, they become actively hostile, attacking any humans they find. Their physical appearance is consistent, humanoid, but with disproportionate body parts and completely featureless faces. They all wear IKEA employee uniforms, which is just adding insult to injury, really. One of the most interesting aspects is how people survive inside. The Foundation has documented multiple survivor communities. They've developed sophisticated survival strategies, building barricades from furniture, establishing territories, creating maps, though these become useless as the interior layout constantly changes. Some survivors have been in there for years, developing their own social structures and survival rules. The food situation is particularly interesting. The store's cafeteria areas seemingly restock themselves periodically, providing a renewable food source. This suggests some kind of automated or anomalous resupply system, though its exact nature remains unknown. Containment is tricky because the building keeps spawning new entrances. The Foundation can't just wall it off. They have to actively monitor and intercept people before they enter. And sometimes, people just appear outside, having found their way out through doors that shouldn't exist. What makes SCP-3008 particularly fascinating is its combination of mundane retail elements with reality-bending properties. It's not just that it's bigger on the inside, it's that it maintains the appearance of a normal store while completely defying physics. The layout shifts, distances change, and yet it still looks like an IKEA. The Foundation's research suggests that time moves differently inside SCP-3008, though the exact relationship between internal and external time remains unclear. Some survivors report spending months inside only to emerge and find that days have passed, while others experience the opposite. Most intriguing are the SCP-3008-2 entities. Their behavior pattern, passive during day, aggressive at night, suggests some kind of programmed routine, but their origins remain unknown. Their consistent use of the phrase, "The store is now closed, please exit the building," implies they retain some aspect of their retail worker role, despite their obvious non-human nature. What makes SCP-3008 truly terrifying isn't just its infinite space or hostile entities. It's how it takes something as ordinary as furniture shopping and turns it into a survival horror scenario. It plays on our natural fear of being lost, of being trapped, and of familiar things becoming unfamiliar. The Foundation continues to study SCP-3008, but many questions remain unanswered. How does it create infinite space? Why does it exist? What are the SCP-3008-2 entities really? Perhaps some mysteries are better left unsolved, especially when they involve Swedish furniture stores that don't want you to leave. Remember, the next time you're shopping for a Billy bookcase, keep an eye on those exits. And if you start seeing the same display over and over, well, maybe it's time to skip the meatballs and head home, if you still can.